Welcome, swimmers and swammers. I'm today's host, Garrett McCaffrey. Our guest today is the head coach of Elmbrook Swim Club. And if you haven't heard much about Elmbrook Swim Club, you haven't been paying attention. The club has earned gold medal status through USA Swimming's Club Excellence program for the past 4 years. This past ranking included them at number 9 overall in those Club Excellence rankings. Last summer, they finished first on the women's team points at the Junior National Meet in Irvine, California. Their girls broke 2 national age group records in the 200 and 400 medley relay. And then just last month in March at NCSA's in Orlando, Florida, their women won the team title, sweeping the relays, setting another NAG record, this time in the 400 medley short course version. And their coach joins us today. He's Brent Boock, and this is the SwimSwam podcast.
Hello, Garrett. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Brent, thanks for coming on and giving us a chance to talk about all the recent successes. Trying to do a little background research on you, and I had a little trouble, finding a ton of information on you personally. So I kind of wanted to start with your story, and I think that kind of, for our viewers, would start with how you got into the sport of swimming.
Sure enough. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't have a big online kind of stamp out there, but I swam at locally here in Wisconsin at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, kind of mid-major. I was a decent swimmer, not great by any means, but coached my kind of had a few more credits, so I did some volunteer coaching there my 5th year, or half of my 5th year, and just fell in love with it and just started coaching. I was going to teach and had my teaching degree, and I've never stepped foot in a classroom. It just never happened. So it's just been
what was it about coaching that hooked you?
I love working with athletes, and I love the relationships with athletes, and I love the process. Like swimming fast and champ meets are all fine and dandy, but I kind of love the grind of practice and getting better and helping kids develop the craft, and likewise helping them develop my craft. Right, it's a two-way street, and the mission statement at the Elmbrook Swim Club is excellence in life through swimming, and that's what I love about the sport. How it can bring just developing, helping kids develop into great young people and giving them the skills that they can pursue in life. Because swimming is going to end at some point, but hopefully, those skills that they pick up through swimming are going to help them throughout their careers. So that's kind of, that's what drew me to it, and maybe not all of that immediately, but that's kind of the path it's taken.
Sounds like you're in it for all the right reasons. Can you talk a little bit about your progression? Because you've been at Elmbrook now for 30 years, started in 1993. How did you come to the club?
Yeah, it's yeah, I started out just as a part-time age group coach, and really at the time I just needed to pay my rent, and from that point on, I realized it was something I wanted to do, and so every time, like say a volunteer or another coach dropped something, I would just pick it up and start doing it, right, and just like so before long, I was, in charge of meet operations and registration and whatnot, and was able to kind of carve out a living. And at some point, I don't know when, I became a co-head coach along with Fred Russell, who was the head coach at the time, and worked alongside him as co-head coach, but I was still coaching the age groupers. And then I think about 8 to 10 years ago, Fred retired, and I just became the outright CEO / head coach of the Elmbrook Swim Club. The club's a 501c3 parent board operation, and we have affiliations with the Brookfield Park and Rec Department. So we're kind of old school in a sense, where we have ties to the rec department and do have a recreational arm of our program as well.
That's awesome. I mean, being able to have ties with those kind of programs often leads to nice access to the pools at the times that you want it and whatnot. Can you talk about how the club has changed? Has that relationship always been in place? Has it grown? How has the club changed over 3 decades?
Sure. Yeah, when I began in the early 90s, Fred, the head coach at the time, had a group of fairly high-powered guys who were going out and challenging for junior championships and whatnot. And it was very top-heavy program, whereas we had a lot of seniors, but really the age group program, I was running around to country clubs and doing clinics and just beating the banners down just to build the team up. Probably about 100 athletes in the program. Within about 4 or 5 years, we had grown to around 200, which is where we've been at, and that's really our kind of sweet spot with our pool time that's available. We swim out of 2 6-lane 25-yard pools, and kind of we have access of 1 every night, give or take. And then some long course time in the summer, which in Brookfield in Wisconsin is really mid-June to August, right? Outdoor long course. It's about a month and a half. But so built the program to about 230, within a few 5 years or so, and that's where it's been. Now, inside of that, it's really kind of honing our craft and how we retain athletes, because we're fairly cylindrical. We don't have a big base, we don't have 88 and unders, 69 and 10s, etc. We're more or less 30 in each age group. And so we really had to concentrate on how we protect the athletes that are coming through the program and kind of identify age groups that are strong and whatnot, and kind of protect them and hold on to them as they go through the program. So that's really been something that we've done a nice job. Not myself, but also the staff that's come through the program have done a nice job of figuring that process out and onboarding parents and getting everybody on the same page for the long haul.
So athlete retention is a big priority. And obviously if you're built, vertically like that, where you're kind of equal and not a pyramid, you do a good job of maintaining those athletes. What are some of the keys? What does that parent onboarding sound like?
Sure. Yeah, at our new member meetings, and even before that, when people contact me or whatnot, we've got some brochures and stuff, and our mission statement is front and center there. So and when people will call me about the program, a lot of times I'll tell them something like, you're joining a life program, not necessarily a swimming program. And people are taken aback sometimes. They just want their kid to learn a few swimming skills. But I'll talk to them I'll talk to the new members right away at onboarding at new member meetings, and tell them, simple stuff like, it varies, but I might say, first thing I'll say is your kid's going to fail, and you're going to be really supportive of them when they fail. And that's what's going to make this program influential in your kids and your lives. Little things like that, just to right off the bat. And just so they have an understanding that this is kind of a long-term thing, and that they may not be able to see it at the time, but their kid is going to be swimming, call it 16 to 18 hours a week at some point, and be off to college, hopefully swimming in 8 years or 10 years. And so we try and be real open with them, both about like the possibilities that the sport can offer, but also kind of the hard road that swimming often presents to swimmers and parents as well.
Do you have to turn swimmers away in that process of protecting the swimmers that you have?
Yeah, we have a waiting list. We do a pretty good job of clearing it off every season. But we've kind of, to be honest with you, Garrett, we've kind of hit our sweet spot where we're able to kind of maintain, we give or take a couple kids that we're able to bring those kids that are interested in the sport on, and not leave too many behind. I think it's a challenge a lot of teams have, is that young man or lady who maybe gets interested in the sport a little bit later in life, who don't necessarily have the skills and how to onboard them. That's something that we're currently trying to figure out, right? Because you can't necessarily put them in a group with other 13 and 14s who have been swimming, say, for 5-6 years, and you also can't put them in a group of 9 and 10-year-olds, right? So that's somewhere an area that our club is learning to struggle with. Yeah.
I definitely don't think your club is alone in that area. It's a challenge that I'm assuming most clubs, I know mine also sometimes has trouble with that. But obviously the system is working. And it sounds like, through your progress, you've got a good development process and everything. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like how are your coaches onboarded? How does the move up process kind of happen? And how do you communicate with those coaches to make sure that they're following, your lead in the philosophy of the club?
Sure. So like number one, I think on a successful club is having a great age group coach and a great 8 and under coach, right? And we've got both of those. And Mike Rose, our head age group coach, has been with us. He's actually been working in the community longer than I have. And then also Dan Westfahl, who came on board at the same time I did as our 8 and under coach. So those guys are indispensable, and we've been on the same page since day one. So we've worked together for 30 years there or more. And it's been really nice as far as, kids transitioning through the program. No, all of our 12 and unders will swim in the 12 and under program until they're 13. So we really protect that. We feel like kids should be age groupers, and no matter the skills they have, right? There have been 12-year-olds or 11-year-olds who could possibly move up into our senior program, but we just protect them and protect the age group program until they turn 13, at which point they can kind of go into whatever training group that they're most suited for.
Yeah, that's painting a clear picture. And it's one of those other questions that a lot of clubs go back and forth about, when you move them up into that senior group, even if they have the skills that might be a little before their age. So thank you for that insight. Let's now talk about the top of the team. And for the last 5 years, especially, it's been going pretty well. What do you think is clicking so well for the team? Because for the last 4 years, you've been gold medal. The year before that, it was silver. So you just seem to have a really good thing going recently. Has anything changed to lead to that? Or how would you explain that level of success for a club that has around 200 swimmers?
Sure. Well, I talked about retention, and there's a group of girls that are pretty talented, and guys that the girls there's more of them, and they're a little bit better anyway. But there was a good group that was coming through, and we kind of paid attention to that. And I think here's the answer, Garrett. I think a lot of work was put in to create a space where kids could be successful, right? And that goes to our, not just our mission, but our staff, and kind of creating a place where kids could achieve whatever they wanted in perhaps a pool that's not world class, right? And so the generations of athletes before this current crew did a really, really nice job of building a culture. And I was a part of that. I say the kids built the culture. I don't want to take myself out of that equation, because it was a lot of work on all of our ends to build a place where we could be great. And that's we look at it kind of like from a team aspect, it's a really competitive culture, but it's also really supportive. And one of the key things for us is for me to bring my best on a daily basis, I owe it to the athlete next to me, right? And if the athlete next to me gets the better of me on a day or two or a set or whatnot, more power to them, because they're allowing me, they're bringing out more for myself, right? And so yes, I want to race, and yes, I want to be better on these repeats, but if somebody's getting the better of me, they're making me better, right? Just that understanding. And we really try and let that kind of expand to our competition as well, right? Like, of course, I want to put my hand on the ball first, but if my competitor from another team gets there first, well, right on, but hopefully they brought something better out in me in the process, right? So we're all better for that aspect. But anyway, I feel like when this current generation came in, there was a really positive culture that they learned and kind of developed, and of course each generation makes it their own, right? And so they've really expanded upon that, and really taken the effort level and work ethic to another notch, and that's kind of really produced results. And it's not just the kids that are on those mags and stuff. It's the whole group that's moving in the same direction, and that's been something that's been really neat to see. At some point, we got a group of kids who are moving on and swimming at a higher level, right? And so we made a decision as a club, just we're all going. You know what I mean? Like, the whole group of 30 to 40 kids, we're all going to move forward here, and that's been really enjoyable as well, to see the whole senior team kind of hop on board and take some of these goals and challenges on. I don't know if I answered your question or just babbled for a while.
No, for sure. I think that you're right on to what, as coaches, we kind of realize, and sometimes, I'm definitely, like you said, including you in the progress of this success, but it takes some successful swimmers to raise the bar for the whole group, and really show what can be done, especially if you're dealing with, limited pool resources, or, those type of things. So it makes a ton of sense, but it also kind of changes your coaching when you get that level of an athlete. Has your coaching philosophy and training philosophy evolved now that you have a group of swimmers who can handle or are willing to do a little bit more as far as work ethic?
Sure. I think all of us try and, if we're getting better, we're changing some variables season to season, right? Either volume or harder or faster or weights or whatever, right? And so that's been with a group that was pretty talented. We have just been systematically kind of adding, adjusting, changing so that hopefully we keep getting better year in, year out, right?
Can you get specific with that? Can you tell us kind of what type of progressions you're looking at?
Yeah, sure. So, they won't start on like any sort of resistance or like bucket work or stuff until they get to high school. They won't do any, they didn't do any doubles until they got to high school. And really, like, off of that, Garrett, it's been fairly individual in like what we're adding to what they're doing. It's not, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's necessarily over the whole group, but kind of changing variables within each kind of training group. Like the sprinters we don't really have a sprint group, to be honest with you, but say the mid D, adding a morning of on the destro towers. The 400 IMers definitely just adding to their volume and what they're doing. But I'd have to go back and look at workouts to tell you specifically what we're changing. Yeah.
Well, I think you can tell some things from the results, or I could make inferences from some of the results, having, swimmers who can go a 21 in the 50 free, 50 women who can go 21 in the 50 free and 58 in the 100 breast and 148 or 147 in the 200 freestyle. That's a pretty wide range. I mean, you have all of your ladies seem to be pretty good at that, at the IMs as well as the 200 free, 100 free, and could kind of go all over with the strokes as well. So I guess I'm just curious what that weekly cycle looks like. I know you said you didn't have a sprint group. Obviously, there's enough speed work in there to be getting some of the sprint work done. So can you kind of take us through what a weekly cycle looks like for your senior one group?
Yeah, I can. And I'll give a shout out to we're in a situation where we use the high school pools and whatnot. So we have a real good relationship with high school teams, and I think that's fairly unique, or could be unique. But our kids do swim high school, right? And that's the girls runs August through, say, Thanksgiving, and the guys call it early December through February.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but sorry to interrupt, but in Wisconsin, that means they can't do club, right?
Correct. Now, that doesn't mean they don't pop in, right? But they'll swim with their high school teams, but they'll pop in often just to get some stroke work or just to touch base and maybe do a competition or two. But for the more or less, they're with their high school coaches. And the reason I bring this up here with you mentioned about the sprinting, I do want to give a shout out. They do, that's where they get that. Like they race a lot, and I feel like that's really helped them on that sprint side, right? And which is good, because you kind of have to, as a club coach, you have to be malleable and adaptable, right? And so there's positives in everything, right? And I think that's a positive of the high school season, where they really kind of develop some of those sprint skills. But as far as our weekly schedule, like when we're rolling with a full complement of practices, they'll go on Monday morning, 5:30 to 7 a.m. And mornings is largely kind of lighter aerobic. If we're coming off a meet, we're just kind of working out the kinks from a competition. If we don't have a meet, then we're just kind of getting ready to roll for the week. So it's largely aerobic work, kind of IM and or freestyle. But it's a morning where, like, I'll throw some things out and they can, if they're feeling pretty good, they can roll. But if they're kind of not feeling that great, they're not going to hear from me about it, right? Like I'm not getting on their case Monday mornings about intervals or what paces they're going or whatnot. They'll hear from me if they're doing well and they're throwing something down, right? But if you're not, it's fine, no big deal. It's not the point of the workout. Early in the season, Monday afternoons, they'll go 2 hours, and earlier in the season, that'll be a lot of we call it like harder aerobic, like 200 pace type work. They'll do a lot of stuff that's kind of pull, drill, descend, and then work at like a 2 pace or a specific interval. During the season, we will get on the destro towers in the afternoons as well, but we wouldn't do that necessarily real early in the season, more mid-season towards late. And then Tuesdays is more of a quality workout. We'll split into like 3 groups on a Tuesday. We'll have a 400 IM group, kind of a distance free group, and then a mid distance group. And 400 IMers, I'm just challenging them. I just figuring out how to challenge those guys somehow. And likewise with the distance freestylers, often those IMers and freestylers are doing a lot of best average type work. And the sprinters or sprint and mid D, more quality work, that's when they'll do their stand-ups and stuff like that on a Tuesday. They also lift for an hour on Tuesdays after practice. And if you don't have a guy, find a guy to do your weights in your dry land. It's not my strength or expertise, but we've got a guy who's great. And so I'll give him a shout out, Dwight Sandvold. He does a fantastic job with the kids, and not just developing their strength and functional strength, but really buying into what they're doing with the team and following them and being interested in them as human beings and individuals. I think the more people you have on your team or their team, right, that means their family, their dryland coach, their coaches that can be invested in them, the better off they're going to be. Not just like a strength coach for hire, right? It's a little bit different. And
does he come to the pool? Sorry to interrupt again. I just want to, yeah. This is awesome stuff. I just want to kind of get some details on whether or not he comes to the pool or they go to a separate gym for those weights afterwards.
Sure. No, they come to the pool, and we have access, thankfully, to the weight rooms there. So it's really nice. And we didn't always, before we had access, we were just cords, med balls, dumbbells, just carrying them around and whatnot. But the last 6 years or so, we've had access, and that's been great. And really been a key part of the development of this generation. And likewise, having a strength coach during their high school season who was on board with what we're doing, right? That was key. So they don't miss that component anymore during the month and a half, 2 months they're up to high school. It's really been nice to have all the cylinders working together in a sense. And but anyway, they'll lift on Tuesday nights, and that's key not only for strength but injury prevention. Like that's his number one thing, is to kind of help them be bulletproof in a sense, so that they don't have to worry about injuries in the pool. Anyway, we're basically, people don't agree with this a lot, Garrett, but we go 2 days of work, and then Wednesdays is recovery. We go an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I don't write workouts on Wednesdays. Some Wednesdays are a little bit harder than others. The kids call those non-recovery recovery days. And then other days we won't do much at all. You know what I mean? I'll kind of warm up, see where they're operating. If they need a little bit more, we give them a little bit more. We work a lot of technique and a lot of underwater work on Wednesdays. And so that's Wednesday, and then we go back into a similar cycle Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Garrett. All of our Thursday morning, they'll be on resistance and destro towers and whatnot. And when we do that, we do a lot of resistance into overspeed. So they'll be on the towers, and then they'll throw fins and paddles on and swim fast. And I think a lot of people do this, but I think their body position and their feel gets kind of thrown out of whack on the tower, so then they can kind of get up on the water again and kind of establish their alignment and whatnot. So we do a lot of that. I know we're ready to roll when on the overspeed stuff, they start taking their equipment off because they want to know like what's real. Like they're tired of these fake times. They're like, I'm getting ready to race. I want to know what I'm doing here. So when they start taking the fins and paddles off, I know we're pretty. I'm gonna feel positive about that. But anyway, that'd be a Thursday morning. Thursday night, we do a lot of our test sets and whatnot. Thursday night, and then Friday again is more quality efforts. And then we're either racing or Saturday mornings again is a recovery day. I understand we still get Sunday. Why don't we do work on Saturday? The only thing I can tell you is it seems to work, you know. And so I think that the 2 on, 1 off, it's really good for young kids' brains, and they can really bring it hard for 2 days, knowing they've got that third day coming up, right? So I feel the quality of work we get in is more than worth taking that Wednesday and Saturday morning, right? You know, I feel, and it's no secret that a happy swimmer is a fast swimmer, right? And so if they're happy coming to practice on a Saturday morning, you know, that's golden for me, and we'll get better at our craft. You know, we'll do some drills and whatnot, and not necessarily beat the snot out of them, but we'll get to it on Thursday, Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, right? You know, just as far as volume, we're not a huge volume team, but we get in what we can get in, right? So they're probably looking at 45, maybe 50 a week, you know. But you know, if we had more time, we might do more, but we just, you know, we do as much as we can in the time we're allotted.
First off, I love hearing, you know, something that all us coaches read about, how recovery is so crucial. And a lot of coaches will say that recovery is the biggest thing that has changed in the last 20 years that has, you know, led to swimflation, so to speak, where we just keep getting faster and faster. But, you know, a lot of times when they break down their training, it's got to get the work in, going fast every day type stuff. So, you know, hearing that there's a coach like yourself out there having such great success implementing 2 recovery days, and if you count Sunday, kind of 3 every single week, I think that's great. And like you said, there's a mental component to it where the kids stay happy. As far as getting after it, like you said, I guess I'm just a little curious because in a 6-lane pool with towers, how many people are in that top group that you can kind of cycle through and get everybody to get those towers, or at least a group of them to do those towers when you're working with limited space like that?
Yeah, it took some time, Garrett. So when we first started with those, like we had 1 or 2, and it's really just a toy. You know, I mean, it's not. But as of about 2 years ago, we had built up to the point where we have 12 towers, 12 destro towers, and we're at 2 different pools. So the destros are nice because I can throw them in the back of my truck and we can move them around, right? And so that's why we go with that type. And then also we can move them up. So we've got 2 in each, 4 in each lane, right? So there's 3 lanes of destro towers, and they'll go at each other, and then at each other, at each other, at each other. And so if we've got 12 towers, we can have 12 on the overspeed work. And we got a group of about 30. And then if we have more than 24, which is often, we'll have a third cycle. So we'll go towers, overspeed, and then maybe they're kicking, or towers, overspeed, and then some days maybe some med balls or something, right? So we'll be cycling them through. But no, we had to get enough towers to serve the group, and that's something that's, since we've had enough just to roll and not now it's part of their training and not a toy. It's been really beneficial. Yeah, I've never really worked with anything but the destros, so I don't know if they're good or bad or not. It's just what we have, so it's all good. Yeah,
seems to be working. So
yeah,
you have 30 swimmers in your senior 1 group, or sorry,
correct.
24 in your senior 1 group ish.
No, we're 30 plus, so we're 6 to a lane often. Yeah.
When you have swimmers that are having so much success squeezing into 6 per lane, it's just hard. How do you deal with
breakouts are an issue, Garrett? Breakouts are an issue in that before like championship season, we have to make sure we get all on board. We have a lot of breaststrokers coming up and looking around, like it's just protection, or backstrokers who are, just spending some time just to reset that sort of stuff. And habits do pop up, that's in competition. That's where you see things like, turn work and breakouts and just funky little habits that come from swimming in a crowded pool, right? It's just like anything. You have to be adaptable and you have to be aware of that shortcoming, right? It's something we're aware of, or I'm aware of. I don't know. I don't know if I've necessarily talked to the kids about this is why we're spreading out here, do this because you're so crowded, but it is something that at certain times of the year, we make sure we're keying in on so that those habits don't pop up, air circle swimming, etc. in competition, right?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense just from a space standpoint, but also from an attention standpoint, right? Your currency is your attention, and with 30 swimmers in the water, you can't, get to all of them all the time. And when you have a group like the ladies are right now, who are having such success, and like you said, it's not that the young men aren't doing well by most standards. It's just the women are some of the fastest in history based on the NAG records and everything else. How do you balance your attention so that you're either giving it to the people who are doing more and listening more, or you're making sure that you're getting touches with the whole group to make sure that you're developing all of those? And I guess my question is, some coaches say they like to play favorites because it allows them to really reward the people who are doing more, and other coaches try to make sure they're not playing favorites and try to keep it equal with their attention. So I guess I'm just curious how you balance that with such a big group. And when you have a group that's raised the bar for everybody, but also maybe there could be a little jealousy or something else going on within the group when that kind of success happens. How are you balancing your attention and your energy?
Yeah, I think the key one of the keys is like you're only as good as like your lowest denominator, right? And so at the start of a practice, I think, or even just watching kids come in the door, it's identifying who's going to be the lowest common denominator, and that might be your best kid, right? Just had a bad day, you know what I mean? It's had some exams, didn't go well, boyfriend, whatever it is, or girlfriend, or just didn't sleep or whatever. So, just kind of catching that stuff early in a workout and having the group all moving on the same page is really key to allowing you to coach, right? So get everybody on the same page and everybody working with the same effort allows you not to do the, I don't know, it's not even coaching, right? It's just like practice management, right? Just like getting people moving in the right direction, right? If you can take care of that right off the bat, maybe have a chat with a kid, I know it's not your best day or whatever, but let's do this, just having them on board with the minimum flow of the workout helps you as a coach to coach, right? And not just manage a workout. And I've got a group of kids that are real good about like understanding what we're doing and bring appropriate levels of effort, right? And that's key as well, right? Is having kids who have some personal responsibility as to how hard they're working and whatnot. And again, it's the whole group, right? If I don't have to worry about asking some kid to repeat at a faster pace or something, then I can talk to them about their stroke work. And it's a challenge, Garrett, with 30, I do try and touch everybody every day. I do have an assistant sometimes, to be honest with you, not all the time. I think it's another aside, but I think coaching and USA Swimming is, I think we're at a point where people aren't necessarily willing to give their time for peanuts, and they shouldn't. And I think it's a crisis in coaching and USA Swimming is to like the amount of great coaches who just can't do it with families and whatnot. But that's a whole nother deal. But anyway, we have trouble finding some staff. So often I am alone, and the kids do a good job of they'll recognize on a given day if I'm like, I'm with the sprint mids today, that 400 IM group will be really good about holding themselves accountable. Like I'll be able to pop over there and say, what did you hold on this set? And they'll give me numbers, and vice versa. But it's a challenge, Garrett. Do I favor some kids over others or groups of kids? I honestly try not to, but I think we're all human, right? And if somebody is excelling at a workout, you're going to highlight them, right? It's and there's other ways to get kids on board without like yelling at them, like this is fairly often, like if they're doing a repeat, if you hear me say like 102, is that all right? That's cool. If you hear me say, 104, that's pretty obvious, right? Like, okay, but at a couple of those, then it's 102, 0-0. Look out, Garrett's bringing it. So it's like little things like that just to get everybody on the same page. And but I don't know. I try real hard to make it around the pool. I think it's a testament to the kids who overcome the situation they're in, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but hopefully I got some points there. But
oh, absolutely. Yeah. You talked about it from the very beginning that as a developmental program, this group has, had the foundation laid for them, and through the different groups had cultural values that they have been carrying. And it sounds like your relationship with them is honest and upfront, and they want to make the team as great as much as you do. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. How do you think your swimmers would describe your coaching and describe Coach Boock? Like if you can step outside of yourself and just imagine from their perspective, how would they describe your coaching style?
I don't know. I think like their brains will go to moments where I lost perhaps my cool, which does happen, But I don't know, Garrett. You'd have to ask them. But honestly, I would really hope that they view me as somebody who cares for them as individuals, and I look at it like I have a relationship to like the whole team. That's like 200 people and parents and coaches and whatnot. And like, that's a team. And then like me and them as a team of 30 to whatever athletes, and then me and the individual athlete. Like, I think um, those are all very real teams, right? And so like there's times when I'm operating clearly with me and them, and we're a team globally. And then, and then there are times that it's just, me and the athlete, you know what I mean? Now that we're the team, and um, I don't know, Garrett. I hope they look at it similarly. Like, like Brent's just, I don't know if he's a coach, but he's somebody who's just helping me get, we're working together, right? To get to an end. And but I hope that's how they would look at it. But as far as like coach swimmer relationships, like there's times that are important where like it's them and you, right? Like they're the team and you're the coach, right? And that's okay. And there's also times when you're all in it together, right? And both of those are really important. But likewise, like when a kid is swimming, clearly they're on their own, right? Um, you can't do it for them or do it with them even, but clearly, before or after, you can be with them. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I don't know. I think they think I'm pretty intense. I know the kids on other teams think I'm pretty intense. I think when they start, when they get to know me, I think I have like resting intense face, not, but um, I'm pretty down to earth, I think, but I think they would say I'm intense, to be honest with you. Yeah, I expect a lot there, I expect them to be at their best, and that's not a negative thing. People want to be the best they can be in general, so it's having a high standard is okay.
It seems like they also see that other side of your caring side, or else I don't think that they operate without you watching over them at all times, like you're describing your groups on, Fridays and Tuesdays, where they're able to kind of do the set the way it's supposed to be done, even if you're not standing right over them. So they're not doing that if you're just, cracking the whip all the time, and they're just trying to avoid you blowing up on them. Even if you are intense, it sounds like they can read that you care. I guess the only other question I have along those lines is about colleges. And if you look at some of the recent commitments, it's pretty impressive. Texas, Stanford, Wisconsin, Indiana. There's just been a lot of really big time schools that some of your ladies have been committing to. And I'm sure I'm missing a lot of the other athletes who are also committing to great universities. Can you talk a little bit about how that fits into your priorities with that whole progression and sending them off to another program?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us, Garrett, is having a tradition of athlete coming out of the program, whereas these colleges know kind of the attributes of an Elmbrook athlete, and that's something that they would want on their team, right? So that's real important to us. We want kids to get, hardworking, respectful young men and women, and scholastically strong. And so that's first and foremost, and hopefully these college teams kind of learn to trust, that we're developing good athletes and want to have them, and good people and want to have them as part of their programs. But I wouldn't say, at no means, Garrett, are we purposefully trying to funnel kids to like the Power 5 schools or whatnot. We had a lot of kids have a lot of success at D3 schools, and I really, it's more about finding just a good fit for that athlete, and helping them find helping the athlete and family find what they're looking for, and finding a fit. But no, it's fun seeing them go off to these schools, and I'm going to be excited to see, how everybody progresses. It should be enjoyable watching NCAA the next couple of years, and I'm excited for these kids to take the jump. One of our, like I mentioned kind of like how we train and like our volume and whatnot, Garrett, but another goal would be, talking collegiately, is like give kids a background and stuff where they can be successful no matter what program they step into, right? Like that's been something that I don't blow my own horn a lot, but like something like I have heard that it makes me very proud that some of the athletes that we've sent through who maybe haven't been top recruits, or maybe just on books, or walking on. I've heard things like, he's the only freshman that can do the work. Maybe not the best freshman, right? But the freshman who can handle it. And so that's something we really try and develop in the kids, and that we take pride in as well, that our kids are ready to roll when they step on the next stage. Yeah. At least we hope. It's our goal, right?
Yeah. I think some coaches don't really consider that, they want to be the best coach for that kid, and they don't really always consider how they're going to do at the next level. And that, no matter what part of the progression you are at club, most of the time, if you're doing it really well, you're not their last coach, and understanding that they need to go on and be able to, handle, like you said, any kind of program. And it makes a lot of sense, as most of your answers have here today. I just got, I think, a couple more. You recently
could be their last coach, Garrett. Can I share a story? It meant a lot to me just this past weekend at the restaurant. Had a fellow who just graduated, and maybe a month ago was like texting me, "Are you going to be at Westfahl?" I'm like, yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm at the meet, and I see he's in the psych sheet for the 50 freestyle. And before the race, he's like waving me down. This kid's like 24 years old, right? I'm like, "You're 24 years old. What do you?" "Yeah, I see you, buddy." And he swims this 50 freestyle, and he comes over and he says, he says, "I haven't touched the water since NC2As." He's like, "But I wanted to come so I could be with you for my last swim." So he might end up as their last coach as well, right? Like I just lost it, but
that is a
so
great
maybe
story.
Their last, when you said their last coach, that just popped into my head.
No, that's pretty cool, full circle. And yeah. Thank you. You saw a lot of top level swimmers recently in Colorado Springs as a member of the junior national team staff for the junior national team camp. I guess, how was that, and what did you learn? What kind of little nuggets did you take away from that camp that, help you as a coach? And then, I guess let's just start there.
Sure. I think first and foremost, in just anything like that, is being able to spend time with the other staff members and just being immersed on deck with them is so beneficial. It's just to expand not your network, but we all swimming, right? And I think kids can be real successful in lots of different programs, so long as they're bought into that program, right? So just talking with people, the coaches, coaching staff, and some of the kids about what they're doing and what they feel makes them successful was really good and made me a better coach. As far as really the athletes, I had the honor of of coaching like the national select group with the guys in November, and then being at the junior team camp, and just being witness to the level of maturity and attention to detail that the kids kind of develop in that year or two span if they make the jump, right? Is pretty big, right? Like the kids who are making that junior team, I think, I don't know what the stat is. You'd have to ask USA Swimming, but whatever percentage that is, it's those kids who work out a lot of, because they're all good, right? Like they're all really good, but the kids who are at the national junior team camp are more, they're the kids who have developed kind of the other skills, listening, being attentive, being respectful, the stuff that's outside of the water. Those are the kids that kind of take it to that next level. And this is all anecdotal, Garrett. So you know what I mean? This is just what I anecdotally feel I saw. But because kids at both those camps are uber talented, right? Just it's either the kids developed those skills in those intervening years or had those skills, right? Are
you talking kind of social skills on the deck, or are you talking maturity? Like what are you pointing to when you're looking at those skills out of the water?
Yeah, I'm pointing to maturity and social skills, nonverbals, right? Being able to listen to a strange coach tell you stuff and be like, yeah, okay, being able to adapt, right? Like all these kids are doing things that are maybe the same they do in the club, but given to them in a different way or explained to them in a different way, right? Just being able to like roll with that and adapt. And I feel like the kids at the National Junior Camp do a real nice job of that, of whether it's new or different or the same, given to them in a different language, just being able to adapt and roll, I think it's a skill they have. Yeah, just working at the camp, working with people who are a lot smarter than me, it was a pleasure to take some times for Dr. Ken Ono, who was out there doing some work, and his assistants, who are much smarter about swimming than I am, boy, but then again, just hearing, just being like a fly on a wall while they were going through their stuff, was really helpful to me too. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I appreciate you sharing that experience and some of that insight.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. My next question was going to be what makes the good athletes great, but I think you already kind of covered it with that ability to adapt, and ability to kind of roll with those situations. So that brings me to my last question, and I think it's an important one. We kind of skated over the surface of some of the underlying issues with USA Swimming and coaching and the dedication that it takes in order to become, a full-time or even a part-time, but a participating coach at the club level, giving up evenings and a lot of weekends and a lot of that stuff. But I feel like coaches have to, if they're going to do it, find a balance, find something that they can do away from the pool, away from the team, and kind of balance out so that they have something else. How would you say you do that balance? What do you do for self-care, so to speak?
Yeah, I think if I'm brutally honest, Garrett, I think I fail often at the self-care, but I do run and bike, and I don't swim anymore because I just going to a pool when you're off isn't where I want to be anymore. But if someone says let's go swim around an island or something, I'm all in, out in open water. No, I run and bike, and thankfully I had an opportunity to adopt a dog about 3 years ago, and it's the old story: who adopted who, you know what I mean, or who saved who, right? So that's kind of my release, is kind of getting out and just running some trails with the dog. And for myself, I'm a DJ at a local radio station here, so getting on the air and playing some jazz and improvised music is a real release for myself as well. So kind of having that I collect vinyl and music and whatnot, and share it over the airwaves, and staying active. But as far as like carving out big chunks of time when I can go on vacation and stuff, that's something I haven't done a great job of. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate the perspective, and yeah, that's a cool answer. I haven't heard a DJ as that answer yet in all of these podcasts. So that's pretty awesome. That's really good.
There we go.
Brent, I've really appreciated this. I know I've learned a lot. It's been great to get to know you a little bit better, and I'm really looking forward to watching Elmbrook going forward, and seeing how it continues to grow with the success that you've built there. So thank you for your time, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much, Garrett. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.